We got to talk a little bit about the NBA draft here, but not about the actual players in the NBA draft. Let's talk about a little bit about the media coverage
Okay.
from the NBA draft. And let's talk about the two guys, which everyone knows, Woj and Shams, right?
Shams.
They break all the news. They let you know what's happening. I'm a little frustrated with both of them, and I want to talk about it and talk about why. So first off, we've got this number 2 pick market, which was wild, right? We have Scoot, who's the favorite. And then we have Woj, go on SportsCenter, go on ESPN, and he says, look, the Hornets are focused on Brandon Miller at 2. Okay. I mean, it's sort of a story, but it's not really one of those spots where you're putting your flag in the ground. You're not saying, no, they're going to take him number 2. So you see the market flip, and we go from Scoot being minus 300 to Brandon Miller being minus 600. And then Shams decides to jump in the conversation, and he drops this one. Quote, Scoot Henderson is gaining serious momentum at number 2 for the Charlotte Hornets in tonight's NBA draft. And this completely moves the market that morning, where you see Scoot go to minus 400. This is a big old nothing burger here from Shams, okay? Gaining serious momentum means absolutely nothing. It's not taking a stand. It's not doing anything. It's just saying, hey, I heard this sort of. I'm going to throw it out there. And if I'm right and Woj is wrong, I can wave my flag and dance all over him again. And I get Woj's point. He didn't want to be in the same position as last year because last year he said these guys are going 1, 2, 3. And guess what? They didn't go 1, 2, 3. So he was wrong about the order. But my issue with it is that then after the draft, he drops the tweet, quote, all along, the entire Charlotte Hornets organization has been all in on Brandon Miller, end quote. Where was that before the draft? Why wasn't this something you said 2 days earlier instead of focused on? If you're going to break these type of news, if you're going to be that guy, stake your flag in the ground. Be that guy. Say this is what's going to happen and then be right because he is right more than he is wrong. And to be fair to both of these guys, they do a phenomenal job breaking the news in the NBA. They do a great job with trade. They both have a ton of inside information. I love what they do there. But if you're going to be that guy and this is one of your biggest nights, take a stand. I don't want these wishy-washy tweets and wishy-washy statements. I want stands. I want truth from your sources. And that's something they both struggled with. And then let's get to the other part of this show I have. I was sitting at home enjoying the NBA draft, excited to see what was going to happen. If we're going to have any big trades, if we're going to have any surprise picks. And I go on Twitter because I often go on Twitter when I'm watching sports because I want to get the reaction. I think it's a fun place to get reactions. You get a ton of love, a ton of hate from fans from the teams when players get drafted. And I see that Shams is tweeting every single player taken a minute or 2 minutes before they're taken. And it's ridiculous. And the one we pulled up is the most ridiculous to me. So after Brandon Miller goes number 2, 5 minutes later, 1 minute before Scoot Henderson gets drafted, Shams says, quote, sources, Portland is selecting Scoot Henderson at number 3. No kidding. I could be a source for that. Everyone knew he was going to go number 3, but you're doing it a minute before the pick. It completely ruins the draft. It takes away any of the suspense with the person walking up. Woj decided not to do this year. And that's because he's on ESPN. He's on ABC. They want that draft telecast to be a product and one that has some type of suspense. I can't believe the NBA is still letting these guys do this. I can't believe they haven't figured out how they're finding out the information 2 minutes before the actual draft pick and then allowing them to tweet it out. It ruins the product of the NBA draft. It takes the suspense away. I want to know whether or not I win, lose my bet when the commissioner talks, not when I refresh Twitter. So I actually silenced Shams for the draft night so that I wasn't ruined by that. But you still have people retweeting these things. The NBA needs to figure out how to take this away. They either kill the source or tell Shams not to do it. But this is not a good way to run an NBA draft. And I don't need obvious information. I want information about, well, who's going to get traded, if there are rumors that are going around. That stuff, great. Break the news, guys. But don't tell me a minute before a player's taken that they're going to be taken. That's not breaking news. That's ruining people's evenings. So let's fix this for next year's draft NBA. Let's not let this happen. And next year, if you want to take stands and you want to dance on people, take the stands. Don't be so wishy-washy before you actually put something out there.
I like people that have something to say. Mike Somich had something to say right there. First of all, Shams is one of my guys, right? I love Shams. I'm in the tank for Shams Charania. I got to work alongside him in Chicago when he started his TV career, and there is nobody that works harder than Shams. And you're right. This is one of those hate the system, hate the game, not the player. because this is the game now that has been invented really by Shams and Woj as well, right? This is the game that they're in. So unless they switch the game, it's going to continue. This is what these guys do. They're going to break the news. They're going to get it out there as fast as they can because that's what they've been employed to do. So I'm with you, Mike. It's frustrating from like when you look at it at large as to the enjoyment of watching some of these drafts, not just in the NBA, but certainly in the NBA as well. You see it a little bit in the NFL as well. But to your point, Shams is doing what he has been employed to do, and he does it very, very well. So unless they want to come to him and say, hey, man, you're taking away that viewer experience from a Mike Somich, from the other viewing part, because I'm already getting the info now on my phone before I get it from the commissioner of the league. They need to have that conversation. But until I've not seen a guy work harder than Shams does at this, in this particular skill, because he does know. You asked the question, like, how does he get this before everybody? That man has got so many connections and so many phones going and so many things going on that he just knows the connects to get that. And so does Woj, to his credit as well. But I'm with you. It's one of those hate the game, don't hate the player. That's the game they've been employed to play, and they play it very, very well. But I'm with you from a viewing perspective. If the league wants to keep any bit of suspense, you either got to do what Mike does there and silence those guys, because they're going to be out there on Twitter. They're going to give you the info before the commissioner, Adam Silver, can walk to the podium and give it to you, America. These guys already have it. And if you want to avoid that, either got to silence them on social media, as you did, or there has to be a conversation with these guys, because they're not going to stop breaking that news, because they do get it a little bit before. But I love your take, Mike. I love the fact that you're looking at it from, I've got wagers on these things, and I would like to wait for the suspense of the commissioner going up there to the podium and telling me whether or not I'm cashing that ticket or not. But until they switch the rules of the game, they're not going to slow down the Shams or the Woj bombs that come.
No, they won't. And it's like getting punched in the gut twice when you have a Scoot number 2 ticket and you load it on Twitter and it tells you that Brendan Miller went number 2, and then you got to watch the commissioner say it again. So I may have a little issue with that going on. But I agree with you. These guys do a phenomenal job with gathering the news. I wish we could get the NBA to step in and say, look, guys, don't say this guy's drafted 1 minute before they're drafted, right? And from the counterpoint, look, Shams works for a media organization. He's trying. They had a live broadcast. They were trying to pull people into their broadcast because they were giving out this information first. If I'm ABC and ESPN, I am fired up because I don't want any broadcast or anyone who's on any broadcast to have that information before I do, because I paid a boatload of money to be able to do that. And so it's something you got to look at and you got to try and fix. And this was the first year Woj didn't do the same thing. He did not announce the picks before they were announced, and he was doing that last year. I think that was ABC and ESPN saying, look, we want people watching the telecast. We don't want them watching your Twitter. Now it's going to be interesting to see if the NBA steps in and says the same thing to Shams and what he's doing on Twitter.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.